The problem with contemporary Indonesian culture is that it has forgotten its roots. It has actually aped the West in its homophobia and transphobia and its, this gender binariness, which the current most Indonesians will say, oh, that's the modern, including Islam. Most Muslims don't know that in Islam, in the vocabulary of Islam, you don't only have men and women, you have other genders, including in the household of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be unto him. There was a trans woman who was close to his youngest wife. Most Muslims don't know that.
Hello and welcome back to On the Level. I'm Jeff Hutton. Today, LGBT activist and scholar Dede Oetomo. In the 1980s, he founded Gaya Nusantara, Indonesia's first LGBT advocacy group. He ran for a spot on the Human Rights Commission in 2012 and got as far as a parliamentary hearing, the last stage in the application process. He's outspoken and landed himself in hot water, suggesting once on a televised panel that homosexuality even occurs in pesantren, or madrasas as they're known more commonly in the West. He's a fierce thinker for whom coming out at Cornell University meant hitting the library to read everything he could about queer history and theory. My journey of discovery was decidedly less cerebral. Under the administration of President Joko Widodo, at least in his first term, religious conservatives managed to seize the agenda. Police routinely harass gay men and beat and humiliate trans women. Cohabitating women are frequently driven from their homes by suspicious neighbors. Homosexuality is legal here, but clauses in the anti-pornography law give police sweeping powers to clamp down on what they deem to be deviant behavior. Dede is the guy reporters go to get big picture quotes or to put the latest homophobic outrage in context. My conversation will show you why. Friends, Dede Oetomo. Dede Oetomo, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
In 1987, you started Gaya Nusantara.
Yes, I did.
Fair to say you had hoped the cause of gay rights, LGBT rights, would be further along by now.
Yes, at that time, I thought by now, especially with the change of governments in 1998, I thought it would be more smooth, and by now we would have an anti-discrimination law. But of course, I was wrong.
Naivete or arrogance of youth, or were you betrayed along the way?
I think it's partly my naivete, and and Reformation has been betrayed by the politicians, by the bigot. So I guess it's the reality.
Tell me about that time in the late 80s. Suharto is well and truly entrenched. What prompted you to start what was the first advocacy group for LGBT people? In fact, I don't think the acronym existed then. LGBT.
No, it was just gay or homo. Yeah, those are the two words I would use. Actually, before Gaya Nusantara, with another bunch of friends, I started Lambda Indonesia in 1982, and from the name Lambda, you see the influence of the Western gay movement. Lambda legal, Lambda this, Lambda that. It's partly because I came out in a big way to everyone. I had come out to my parents before that, but to everyone when I was at Cornell. I was a graduate student, and I was influenced by the readings from the gay liberation movement. But at the same time, I was doing Southeast Asian studies, with people like Ben Anderson, with mostly him actually, that also reminded me of not forgetting the Southeast Asian roots. Now we would call it gender and sexual diversity. So yeah, we were not bothered at all, in the 80s. The only incident where we were a bit worried was some homophobic journalists actually wrote about our little magazine in the Surabaya newspaper, the Surabaya Post, and that got the attention of the local branch of the Ministry of Information. And so we got a letter saying, you should register as a internal newsletter. And then I had an uncle who was a senior journalist in Surabaya, and he said, no, don't come near that office. So we did something else, and apparently he actually saw a loophole in the publishing law in Indonesia, and that is if you publish a book of a serial, however many volumes, you don't have to ask for permission from the government. The printers have to submit 2 copies to the local office of the prosecutor, and then they might ban it if they decide to do so. So it's a funny loophole, but we used it, and after that we were saved. So we were never bothered actually by the Suharto government. We were not that open, but in the media we were increasingly open. In the early 90s, we were on television. I mean, this was the start of private commercial television. Yeah, I can say the rest is history, actually. Our HIV program was bothered, actually, in 93 to 99. It was stopped. We could not get funding from, at the time, there was an Australian program. This is what is interesting. I don't have the answer. The Australian programs managed to actually to have programs for gay men and trans women, waria, in Denpasar and in Makassar. But the American program could not. I mean, our proposal was lost at the office. But we couldn't get the funding. So I think there's like a ban on programs for gay men and trans women.
What was the pushback, the official pushback then? The caginess about your newsletter, the pushback on the HIV advocacy, or was that just the overall paranoia of civil society during the time of Suharto years?
Both. I think it's both. I know for a fact from foreign consultants who were working on the HIV program at that time, that there were some officials in the Ministry of Health who were horrified to see that many of the HIV consultants were gay. I mean, they were visible. And to think that they started, proposing programs for gay men and trans women, that actually bothered them. So that was part of it. With the publication, that was probably more general. And actually, when we did not reply to that letter in 1988, it was. Nothing else. Nothing further was done by the local office of the Ministry of Information. Yeah.
So you studied at Cornell, and you came back to Indonesia. When was that? I just want to get the chronology.
That was 1984, but in 1981, I already came back for a summer for 3 months. For 3 months, I was working on an Indonesian textbook. This was my previous life. I'm more of a linguist, and by then I had already started corresponding with local gay guys, Indonesian gay guys in different parts of Indonesia. And actually, one of them in Solo, Chandra Sudarsana, I think I can mention his name now. He passed away already. And somebody else who already had passed away in Jakarta, the three of us decided, it would be nice to have an organization. And so we kept, corresponding between Ithaca and Solo and Jakarta. There was also an ally who's still alive now in Malang, Franz Chua, and he actually helped with ideas and stuff like that. Yeah. So So yeah.
Can you describe your
Mhm.
advocacy? What type of activities were you taking
Well,
on?
at first it was basically, I mean, this is what I learned from a Cornell alumnus who's gay called Bob Roth. And later I found out that he was part of the Student Homophile League of 1968 at Cornell. I think Cornell was the second university in North America that had a gay organization.
A
But
homophile.
anyway, Bob actually gave me this idea that you should put these people in touch with each other, and who knows, there may be communities. And of course, I was such a nerd when I came out. I actually joined gay people at Cornell. This is the different incarnation of a student homophile league, and so it was still there. And I guess you could fit you might say that because I'm ethnic Chinese, there is this stereotype that ethnic Chinese likes organizing. Clan associations, funerary association, this association. So it's the history of my clan organizing around things, and so for me it was gay liberation. I mean, those days. So that's it's actually as simple as that.
Did you say liberation?
Yes, those days the word was liberation. Gay Liberation Front, Palestine Liberation Front.
Yeah.
It was a very well, not very, but rather left wing movement at first. This was before the Mardi Gras and the later Mardi Gras.
You said that you came out in a big way. I've got to know. I've got to ask. Tell me about it.
I first came out to my parents, and then my second set of parents. I talked about my uncle who's a journalist. That's my other set of parents. My uncle and aunt. I lived with them when I was in high school and in my first degree university program, and then they told a few family friends, and it was hush hush. And my parents thought that we'll take you to a psychologist. Thankfully, there was no electric shocks or anything. It was just basically reading, and basically like a reading course on sexuality. And so the more I read what the psychologist suggested, the more I realized there was nothing wrong with me. But I was not out yet, But at Cornell, the first year I was not sure. I don't know what happened. I think the trigger was this pamphlet that was published by the Quakers that my roommate, my Marxist roommate, had in his collection. He's still alive in Bangkok. Actually, I saw him a few months ago. But that pamphlet, basically, it was the trigger. I said, "Why? I'm so stupid. Why should I be in the closet? I should come out." And then I came out by actually going to the library and gobbling up all the readings on gay liberation, history, Hirschfeld, Dennis Altman, all those things. So plus the Indonesian studies. I learned about the Bisu in South Sulawesi. I learned about the tradition in dance, which Garin Nugroho put in the film Memories of My Body. So I was kind of reintroduced to what I grew up with, actually. And that is, gender diversity, of, all these same-sex relations that are not called gay or homo, but are there in East Java, in West Sumatra, in Aceh. Yeah.
And so what was it like to have suddenly a whole other world opened up, almost suddenly?
It was exciting. I mean, the late Ben Anderson gave me, I don't know. I mean, it's like he photocopied his entire files on homosexuality in Indonesia, which is about. I mean, if you pile up the paper, it's about 20 centimeters, And I read them. And then when I came home in 1981, I met people like the historian Okokham, who told me more about the history and things like that. And then there was somebody called Dr. Adi Sukadana in Surabaya. Later, he would become the dean of my Faculty of Social and Political Sciences at Erlangga. He actually reminded me, okay, sure, you can look up to gay liberation, but don't forget we had a tradition of gender diversity, of cross-gender dancing, of same-sex relations for different reasons. Yeah, so that's why I call the organization Gaya Nusantara. So it's actually Nusantara style. That's we remember our roots. Of course, we are different from those people those days, and also people like in South Sulawesi. But it's very useful to ward off the accusation that we are actually just aping the West, because we're not.
I think it's interesting that your revelation, your coming out, meant hitting the library. For me, it meant hitting the bars. You weren't really out in the social scene.
Well, I don't come from a drinking culture. We are Peranakan Chinese of Java. We don't drink. My father would die if he had just a sip of wine or something. Anyway, I did go to the bars, but I was in small Ithaca. There was only one bar, Common Ground, where all the gay men, the trans, the drag queens, the lesbians, they all went there. There was a little cafe called Apple Blossom, which is kind of, well, now we would call it queer. Also an activist cafe. Those were the recreational, sites, I suppose. Yeah, but the library.
The library. That's where liberation occurred. It strikes me. One of the reasons why I wanted to speak with you was to for guidance. I get frustrated whenever I hear this explanation about the lack of gay rights, or the fact that it's been so trampled down in Indonesia, with the argument that this isn't our culture. And your organization, Gaya Nusantara, actually takes issue with that almost directly.
From the first issue of the magazine, yeah.
Yeah. So gender diversity and sexuality as Indonesian culture, go.
The problem with contemporary Indonesian culture is that it has forgotten its roots. It has actually aped the West in its homophobia and transphobia, and it's this gender binariness, which the current most Indonesians will say, oh, that's the modern, including Islam. Most Muslims don't know that in Islam, in the vocabulary of Islam, you don't only have men and women, you have other genders, including in the household of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be unto him. There was a trans woman who was close to his youngest wife. Most Muslims don't know that. And this is what we're doing right now. As we're speaking, I think there is another webinar that my organization is organizing with a progressive Muslim group in Semarang, Central Java. And we have senior clerics like Kiai Hussein Muhammad. He's actually gone very far too. He is brave enough now to appear in a webinar organized by a gay organization, and also a senior Protestant pastor from North Sumatra, Dr. Darwita Purba. She's gonna give the Christian version. So it's
where can people go for the details of the webinar?
Well, it's happening right now. Later, it will. I'm not sure if it's recorded. With these things, some people don't want it recorded. If it is recorded, it will be on our Facebook fan page.
You are speaking with a little bit of caution when you're talking about the trans woman that lived with Muhammad and the ulama who is taking a risk. Could you speak to the deadening effect, the chilling effect that the blasphemy laws have had on the cause for sexual minorities, for recognition of sexual minorities?
Yeah, many activists are reluctant to talk about religion because they're afraid of the blasphemy law. I mean, there is this stubbornness in me that if the truth is the truth, who cares? I have to tell. I'll tell it carefully, but I won't stop saying it. Things like that. And actually, the bigots educated me in cyberbullying in late 2017. I happened to say in passing that there was actually same-sex relations in Islamic boarding schools.
Right, it was on television, wasn't it? It was the Indonesian.
It was on television, and the context was that. If two men are the host was kind of stupid anyway. He actually said, if two men have sex, they will automatically transmit HIV. He said, well, not necessarily. If you do it between the thighs, you can't. And then I said, like in the Islamic boarding schools. And that got it. I mean, but that educated me about 5,000, 6,000 attacks on my Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I blocked them.
Wow.
The polite ones I actually interacted with because they said, "What is your source?" Here it is. There are 3 theses. 3 master's theses, 2 about same-sex relations between boys, and 1 about between girls. And that shut them up, I guess. So there are a lot of things that people don't know, and that's. I mean, the unfair thing is that if we do an open seminar or even a webinar these days, the bigots could actually report. I mean, it actually happened. When was that? A few days ago. There was. The title of the webinar was a bit provocative. It says, in search of a non-homophobic religion. Ooh, that didn't go over well with the bigots. So they reported to YouTube. It was done on YouTube Live, and so it was stopped.
The webinar was stopped
by YouTube.
On what grounds?
You're violating our community guidelines or whatever principles. But the NGO that has you probably know Sejuk, right? The Journalists Association for Diversity. They have been targeted for other reasons because they also they also advocate for West Papuan political prisoners, also religious minorities, to other groups that are in the are thorns in the side of the fundamentalists. Or the government, for that matter, actually. So, so it's this is getting to be serious business.
Was it that experience that eventually caused you to write that article in Inside Indonesia in 2019, saying that that the promise of reformasi has been lost?
I had that thought already in 2016. When it was the some people call it the tsunami of homophobia and transphobia, all the way to the vice president, Yusuf Kala actually said, pretty negative things. I mean, I wish there was a journalist who could remind him that, sir, what about your ancestors who knew 4 or 5 genders? Nobody knew.
Well, he's Bugis. He's Bugis, isn't he?
Yeah, he's Bugis. He's Bugis. And his foundation, his personal foundation, funded the transliteration of Lagaligo, which is the epic of the Bugis. And the creation myth of the Bugis has 2 twin brother and sister, descended on Earth, on Middle Earth, accompanied by 28 meta-gendered beings, humans, and it's explicitly said of 4 genders. Being a modern Buginese, he's probably not aware of those things, or he chooses not to play it up,
And he would have been married there, right? He would have been, which would have been overseen by Bisu.
Not all. I mean, I guess his background. You know the history of Yusuf Kala. He actually bashed churches when he was younger. So I guess his brand of Islam is already kind of uprooted from the local.
The fiery sort.
Yeah. So maybe he doesn't even know, or he actually thinks that these are heathens, pre-Islamic heathens that have to be eradicated anyway. Yeah.
You campaigned for the chair of the Human Rights Commission in 2012.
A commissioner, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry about that, a commissioner. It included appearing before a committee, a parliamentary committee. And
yes,
right.
3.
And it gained quite a lot of media attention. What was that experience like?
It was exciting. I mean, I could actually teach Parliament about our history, about gender diversity, because you actually draw lots and then you get a question. My question was actually about religious freedom, and I actually told the members of Parliament, maybe that was a mistake, that it doesn't matter if your religion might call a sect heretic, but you cannot do anything to violate their rights. They don't like that, I think. But it was good. It was good, and that was the highest position that I ever tried to get into.
Do you think
in
this environment where there's been hundreds of gay men round up in recent years, there's a ongoing attempt to ban all sex outside of marriage, and the LGBT is almost is a 4-letter word, a dirty one.
Yeah.
Do you think a similar attempt can be made in this day and age?
When I registered for the selection process, there was a trans woman, Mami Yuli, who also joined. Okay, so Mami Yuli got past the first screening, I think. Or I can't remember, but anyway, but I think she got to the second stage and then didn't go past that. I think the second stage. I went all the way. So the selection panel, I met the chair, Professor Jimli Al-Siddiqui, who's pretty. Well, I'm not going to say conservative. I mean, he's a conservative Muslim, but he's also somebody who knows the law and human rights. So he thinks that, yeah, sure, go ahead. So, and in fact, that selection panel put me on the short list of 30 candidates, which is the last stage, sent to Parliament. Apparently, when they found out that I only got 1 vote out of the I can't remember how many, 28 or so of the committee members. There was actually a chair amongst the members of Parliament.
Was that because of your comments about you can't do anything to denigrate the rights of minority religion that you think is heretical?
I think it's partly that, but also, they are really bothered by an openly gay man. If I confess that this is wrong, please help me, I would like to change, they might actually still let me in. Actually, yeah. And in fact, that's the general attitude. These poor LGBT people, we have to convert them. We have to bring them to the right path. Yeah,
I think this is an opportunity to discuss or meditate a little bit on the pervasive view of human rights in Indonesia. That it's not so much of the protection of the minority against the majority, but it's finding ways to incorporate them because they're lost souls. It's taking pity and tolerance in the most negative sense. Like we will allow you to exist, not any sort of celebration of diversity. Just you're lucky that you have it so good.
I would agree with that. I mean, there is an Australian student. I can't remember if it was first degree or second degree. I mean, a master's. He's a student at La Trobe. Who was working with Dennis Altman, and he was in Bandung and met a politician of the Justice and Prosperity Party, the PKS, and of course the gentleman talked about human rights are important, and then he very cautiously said, "Sir, what about the rights of LGBT people?" "Oh well, we have our own version of human rights." You see, so it's the particularism of the Lee Kuan Yew, the Mahathir, the Suharto, maybe the Xi Jinping, Asian values.
And how does that relate to human rights as they see them? If you were to define it for them in a way that's fair, how would you do that?
Well, you said it yourself. I mean, we will not kill. I mean, of course, forget Aceh, forget the ISIS. We will not kill our gay and lesbian and trans brothers and sisters. We would actually help them become like us. You see, right. In a way, it's interesting. As ethnic Chinese, I actually kind of sense that in the Suharto, at least officially. I mean, official attitude towards the Chinese. Oh yeah, we're not going to be like Idi Amin, or the Vietnamese to make you both people. We will incorporate you, but you have to be like us. Yeah, assimilate, change your names. Don't be proud as Chinese. Chinese are low. You are only after money and all that.
Mind your place.
Exactly. That's an Asian thing, isn't it? I'm so fortunate. My parents were not like that, and that's. I guess that's partly why I'm not saying it applies to everyone, but how I actually chose to come out and actually start a movement. I could actually bring it back to my family because I was taught that if you are different, you teach society that you are right and they are wrong.
Is that what they said?
That's why I became a teacher. Yeah. That's so we have our own truths. Just for your information, both of my parents did not belong to any religion, which is very unusual, right, in Indonesia. Anyway,
so it was the support of your parents. You credit the support of your parents for being vocal and becoming an activist.
I guess so. I said earlier that my grandfather was a leader in the Chinese community. I mean, he had the probably unenviable position to welcome the incoming Japanese troops in 1942. Can you imagine if you say something wrong, you lose your head. So anyway, there's a history of activism in the family for different reasons.
So we've spoken about the hardening of views toward LGBT people, the entrenchment of the majority. What do you think it would take in order to spark a thaw? It sounds sort of dire. I mean, LGBT, the term,
doesn't it?
Yeah. Is there any way to break the logjam? Do you look to a younger generation and see promise of change for the good, or is it the opposite?
Actually, I mean, of course, even the students who take my gender and sexuality courses at the university they self-select. The more conservative students, they avoid my classes. It's dangerous. You might lose your faith. by taking Dr. Dede's class. That's my reputation at the university. But the ones that actually end up in my classes, because I have 2 classes, are actually very liberal, very cosmopolitan. And as we move closer to now, my students will actually, my name is and I'm pansexual. Or my name is so-and-so and I'm asexual. And the other day, while he was Burmese, he said, oh yeah, I'm gay. Just like that. And the other, they don't even react, the other students, So these are our hopes. And if you factor in religion, I see that young Muslims and Christians, I don't work with the other religions for now, are bothered by the image of Islam and Christianity that are making people say, God, how backward, how barbarian, whipping people just because they have sex with another man and things like that. So that's the hope. And at these workshops, when there is another facilitator who's a proper Muslim cleric or a proper Christian pastor, I usually ask them, can your religion change? And they say, well, yeah, it has changed. I know it sounds it looks very bleak right now. But we don't stop, and it's still possible to do. Oh yeah, of course, your webinar is stopped by YouTube. But I don't know. I don't know about the one today. I'm sure the enemies are on to what we're doing. But I guess it's war. It's war, and we're cautious, but yeah.
No. But Dede, thank you so much for talking with me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
This is a really great chat. I think I need to check in with you every couple months just to feel better.
Sure.
More optimistic.
I tend to be an optimist. My mother always says, but I usually point out to her, look, you survived the Japanese occupation, the independence war, 1965, the genocide. Come on, you'll survive anything.
Thanks so much, Dede.
Okay, sure.
Please. Yeah. All right, bye now. And that's On the Level. Thanks to Dede for joining me. Our producer is Stephen Handoko. Editing by Giga Hafiz. Research by Imam Shofwan. Music by Soundstripe. If you like us, please hit subscribe and rate us. It helps. And as always, you can direct messages to us on Instagram at onthelevel_podcast. I'm Jeff Hutton. We'll be back next week. Bye for now.